So we call this the heat gun. It can create heat from 0 to 630 degrees Celsius. It's an incredible amount of heat. So I will start installing on the front window now. But from this point on, any normal person, any average customer, if you watch this, you will be able to understand the whole process. And any shop owners, regardless of whether it's our brand or not, for those people, it will be about the techniques. So I will install the front windows now. I'm not just cleaning here. This microfiber cloth that I'm using here is called the waffle microfiber cloth. Even if you wash them, there's no dust. It's very, very tightly knit. The only con of this product is that since it looks like waffle, there's a bit of space. So whenever you clean the windows, there might be some kind of smudges left. So if you use it for the final cleaning, it'll be very useful. Windows all have a curvature. If you look from the side, you can see that the window is curved, right? It's curved. The films are all plastic and they're quite stiff. So if you put it here, you'll see there's a lot of wrinkles. So if you make it fit and then you go inside and you install it, to remove these wrinkles, you're gonna have to squeeze it with the squeezies all the way in. But since the film is plastic, it will never shrink. If you apply force all the way and you keep squeezing, only dust will go in. There might be a lot of scratches. So we put the film on top of the curved glass. Then we remove all of those kinds of wrinkles to fit this kind of curvature, so that the curvature of the film and the glass fits. Then we cut it, and that is the whole process of getting prepared. So what I am doing right now is that the surface of the film and the surface of the glass sticks together when they meet. And if they're stuck together, heat shrinking becomes very, very difficult. The film has to be floating on top of the glass so that when we do heat shrinking, it doesn't create any kind of obstacles. So what I'm spreading right now is Dove soap. If you apply soap here, we apply soap so that the film gets slippery and it can be moved, so that it is maneuverable. I cut the film a little bit bigger than the original frame. 2 centimeters here and there, and 5 millimeters here. After heat shrinking, after this process, we will cut it again according to the frame. So we call this the heat gun. It can create heat from 0 to 630 degrees Celsius. Today, I will be working with 630 degrees Celsius, the maximum. If you're wondering how hot that is, look at this. It's red right here. It's an incredible amount of heat that is coming out right now. If you touch it, then do you get burned? That's a burn for sure. If you touch it here, it's a burn right there. As I told you before, the film is plastic. It may differ from different brands and different films, but this film, it starts to shrink at around 170 to 160 degrees Celsius when the surface becomes that hot. So I will show you the heat shrinking process now. We call this heat shrinking in English. So I will start now. I will show you this process several times. So instead of explaining in detail, I will show you the whole process at once. As you can see already, there's a lot of wrinkles on the film. So the process will make this film's wrinkles the exact same curvature as the window. The Sure film has a very strong, hard coating and a very soft base film. So this means that it's different for films that have a base film that is a little bit firmer. And even with a strong, firm base film, when you apply heat, try as I do, instead of shrinking the only parts that are wrinkled, but the whole part, trying to apply the heat evenly all across the regions so that every part receives the same amount of heat. You won't have to press down on the film, since if you press down on the film, there are smudges that are left, especially on a heated film. So to not create those smudges, it's important to evenly spread out the heat. That is my secret, my own way of heat shrinking. Normally, usually when we do heat shrinking, even if you do it slowly and you put a lot of effort in it, some parts might receive too much heat and overshrink. So try to expect these kinds of situations and leave a little bit of film left over so that you can prevent these kinds of problems. So if you shrink this part, then if it overshrinks here, it doesn't drag the film inside. So try to expect these kinds of situations. So whenever it overshrinks, you can keep making it parallel. And that's probably the most important thing when you are shrinking. When you're heat shrinking for films like Rode, Pender, and Sunset, they may all be a little bit different, but basically, so this part where there's a lot of curvature in the window, it's important that you don't overshrink this or make it too flat. So I will heat shrink now. You might be curious about why there are these kinds of movements in heat shrinking, but I think there will be more opportunities later on to explain about this, so I will not explain these today, but I will explain them in later videos. I will focus on installing the film on this car perfectly. As I told you before, the curved part, the roots part, so this part, making it very flat. How about you come over here and you look at it? Without using your hands and making this flat, that is the most important part in this process. If this part isn't flat and it's wavy and you use your hand to flatten it, for this car, there's no problem, but the cars that have a high curvature, then this will create a lot more problems towards the top and create a very bad shape. With a bad shape, when you go inside, squeezing becomes difficult and the edges will come off and a lot of dust might go in through those edges. So it's really important to heat shrink in a very pretty way, even when we see it with a naked eye. It's a very important part. So I would recommend not using your hands at all, because if you don't use them, you'll get practice and master the way to evenly spread out the heat to create a very pretty heat shrinking way. If you look at a lot of YouTube videos, especially those from the States, that install window films, Korean tinters have learned to use their hands through them. And that was always something that I regretted. So this is a very important part of our education for our own brand, but I also wanted to upload a video to explain this, so that everyone could benefit from it. The amount that we are heat shrinking here, the amount that is pulled from here and the amount that is pulled from here has to be very similar. It can't be overshrunk. And as you go lower, it has to be a prettier shape. And if it isn't a pretty shape, and if you force it, the heat might deform the film. That is why I'm introducing you to this kind of way. So we have completed it. Without using a squeegee or the gloves and pressing down, making it perfectly flat, it's not like that, but look at the results yourselves. This is how you can do without using your own hands, and it's a really great try. And even if you press down with your hands or with a squeegee, this is plastic, so the actual amount of curvature is not really gone. It just looks like it. So to really make the film really flat, you have to use the heat shrinking method without using your hands. So we've created the right fit with the heat shrinking. And next, if you look here on the glass, there are dotted lines. So according to this dotted line around the edges, we're gonna start cutting.